Hi, good evening, traders. This is Krishna Joshi here with 7 Points Capital, and I'm going to bring you today's trader takeaways. Pretty exciting week so far. We saw the sell-off sort of um, go away. We've seen a lot of buying. Some of them have been saying, is it like sell on the rally or is it still going to be buy the dips? Um I don't really want to come in with a bias as such. Uh, but from how the earnings have been, even though all the news have come out positive, we've seen like a lot of selling pressure on the earnings names. Some of the big ones like Activision, Blizzard. Um, we saw Wind Resorts, which was down. Square, Roku. So all of these high flyer names have been selling off. So that kind of gives us an indication what kind of market situation we are in. Um, this is spies that we've been looking at sort of bottomed out at the 260. Um, that's like a 21 point pullback, which is pretty massive, like 8% pullback in spies in a matter of 10 trading days. That's phenomenal. So what I really like here is the 275 and the 270 area on the spies, if those are going to hold, whereas if 281s want to hold on the upside as resistance, those are key levels that I'm watching at. So I'm gonna jump into individual names, some of them that were moving today. So just quickly in today's chart on spies, um, we put in a nice bottom at 276.50, kind of broke through, come back, and then just had a nice 2.5 point rally on spies. So we finished pretty strong. I'm gonna go into individual names that I was trading. I missed out on SLS, but I did okay with AWX. We know it's a former runner, um, and these stocks, like look at this, squeezed from $2 all the way to 20, comes back to $3, and we saw a nice little gap up today, like 40% gap on the stock. So I did not get the best entry. I ended up shorting in the 430, 435 area, and got a nice wash into 405, cover in the 405s. Uh, Waited patiently for an entry. I thought it wouldn't bounce back, wouldn't give me an entry, but I had a nice pullback entry at 423, 421, and covered in the wash. But on this one, I remember that I already put out all of my covers in the 410 area and pretty much got out. So uh, on the exits did not really work well on this one. We see ended up fading close to 350. So definitely that second exit on that the second exits on the pullback entry did not go really well. Not as planned. Should have seen a bigger move coming on the way down. Let's move on to the big names. Activision, Blizzard. So Take-Two announced earnings yesterday. So these are the gaming industry stocks, and Call of Duty is a big brand for Activision Blizzard, and so is Destiny. And apparently, while Call of Duty 3 is out and they're doing well, the other ones are not. So Take-Two had a similar setup, gaps up nice on earnings, and look at how it sells off, right? So after hours on Wednesday, the stock is rallying really up, close to 130. Sells off yesterday and today along with Activision. And let's look at ATVI. So similar push weakness continued from Take-Two, and then the stock was SSR on the day. So my goal was to look at levels against which the stock was sort of showing resistance, which was the 55. So the moment it went through the 55, it really had a hard time. Look at how choppy that got. The spreads were really wide. We didn't have a setup up until like 55s, went through, came back a few times, and then ended up shorting that. And then we saw a similar trade at 54.75. So ended up covering in the wash at 54.25 area, and then I think I did end up shorting again at 54. Took a quick cover for about 40 cents, ended up covering 53, 57, 60s, and then ended up shorting similar one. I did miss out on the long, but to be honest, I wasn't even looking at the long setups. I was just thinking of Activision as a continuation of WYNN from yesterday, and it was just holding levels. Look at that, holding 100, defending it, goes up, comes back, and breaks it. Similar action today. Today, in fact, the number was 98. So breaks 98, comes back, reclaims it, couple of attempts and then just squeezes out. So ended up having uh, a couple of losing shorts in win, ended up shorting 98, did not take anything, added more again 98, uh, and did not take any of it again, and got stopped out in the 30s. So definitely something I could have done differently on win resorts. uh, could have definitely trimmed here and added back the same size. But to be honest, I wasn't really looking at the long setup, especially because I was trading on the long side yesterday, and this was holding, going up a couple of points in the money, coming back, and then broke eventually and took a small loss on it after being in the money for like pretty much good part of 3 hours. So I wasn't really looking at the long setup because I knew that 100 broke and so did 98. And if it comes back, I'm gonna have a small loss on it. But I'm gonna go back, rewind the tape over the weekend and see how I could have done differently on it. Um, One of my worst stock on the day was YELP. So I was trading it after hours yesterday. The stock was absolutely getting capitulated. 32s weren't holding, so once the 33s went, it was an easy sell-off to 31, and then today pre-market, in fact, we broke the 30 area, and we opened in fact below 30, and the stock started squeezing higher. So right from the open, I was looking at long setups. I was looking at um, pullbacks to get long. So I ended up buying in the 30-50 area, got a nice push, covered some, comes back, added back, and I was still long at this point. Ended up taking a loss on the second long, but all throughout these, while it was defending 31, I was just sitting long. I was like, this is a long setup, I'm gonna stay long. So I ended up buying 31.15s, ended up shorting, I ended up covering more than half of it at the 50-52 area, comes back, I add some more, and I had my full size. And then on this pullback, so I'm looking at the trend lines, I'm like, this looks like a failed breakout, doesn't want to really hold the 31.50. So I end up taking a break even trade because I had more than my full size. This is where I'm sitting in the money for about 2 hours, comes back, and I ended up taking in fact a small loss on it because I added 31.15s, added 31.10s after taking some at 31.50, added in fact higher at the 33s, 35s, 37s. So I have my fourth tier, which is adding, I have my 4 adds on this one. My average price in the 31.30 area, 31.28, 31.30 area. So I ended up taking a loss on this in fact. So that was pretty frustrating for me because I'd been sitting long anticipating this move. If only I could take out this shakeout period from the chart, it still looks like a good continuation. So definitely I could have done something differently here. Uh, did not manage my risk very well on this because all throughout the stop was below 30.75. So there was no reason for me to panic and sell off, probably because I had my full size, because I had been in the money for so long, and now seeing red on the screen, I was like starting to second guess myself. So YELP was the worst trade on the day for me. Another decent winner was TripAdvisor, day 2 on this one. So TripAdvisor, I ended up shorting the 65s with a tight stop at 65 area. Got a nice little wash, covered some, and close to 11 o'clock I added back 64.70s, 64.68s. On the pullback, got a nice little wash and covered in the 63.80 area. So this was a easy trade compared to YELP or even Disney. So I was trading Disney, the last stock I want to go over. So YELP and Disney were my 2 worst stocks on the day. On the daily, if you look at it, it's a 52-week high, 119.50 holding. So I know that 119.50 is a resistance. Okay, now I'm looking at the after hours. An iceberg order at 118.75, the 119 area. So I'm coming in with a short bias, thinking that as long as it pushes against the 1950 and fails, I'm going to look at short setups. I only traded this for the first half of the day, so I'm going to zoom in, show you what exactly I was looking at. So it pushes into 115, comes back, so I end up shorting 119.10s on this with a stop about day high. So what happens is I get stopped out. I take another stab at it, shorting now 119.20 this time, and goes down a little bit in the money, not taking anything, and then gets stopped out for a loss again. And my final short on this one was at 11.02. So right around 119 again, I'm taking the final short position again in the money, nice, and get stopped out. So three losing positions, three strikeouts, and I was like, that's it. I'm gonna call it quits for Disney. The stock did end up going down. In fact, the surprising part was seeing how strong it was in the first half of the day. It did not bounce back with that push and spice. In fact, it was holding 118.15, 50 area as a magnet. I'm gonna watch this one on Monday, probably a fresh start, no bias on it. Maybe we'll see how that goes. So that's it from me for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. I was watching a couple of other stocks. I was watching Dropbox and a couple of takeouts as well, merger acquisition stocks, IIVI and FNSR. So if you guys want to go with that trade, discuss that, or talk about it, let me know. Send me a message and then we can discuss that. Thanks again. This is Krishna Joshi from 7 Points Capital. And a quick note to finish off the weekend is we're adding a couple more desks to the Florida office. So yes, we are hiring experienced guys. If you are a hardworking trader looking for a nice prop desk to work alongside me and Stan Glusman, feel free to apply. Send in your resume, send in your trade logs or your trader view journaling, and then we can take it from there. So this is Krishna Joshi. Thanks again for watching, guys. You have a great rest of the weekend.